The sun was shining brightly over the neighborhood park, where kids of all ages were gathered on the basketball court. Laughter and the sound of basketballs hitting the concrete filled the air. In the middle of it all, 16-year-old Jamal Harris stood off to the side, clutching a worn basketball. He had been coming to this park since he was a child, finding solace on the court when life got tough. His dream of making it to the NBA fueled every dribble and shot he took. Jamal lived with his single mother, Diane, who worked 2 jobs to make ends meet. Despite their struggles, Diane made sure Jamal stayed focused on school and basketball. His talent was undeniable, and scouts had already started to notice him. Jamal's coach, Mr. Richards, often said he had the potential to become the next LeBron James. But Jamal remained humble, driven not by fame but by his love for the game and a desire to give his mother a better life. One afternoon, Jamal arrived at the park, excited to play a quick pickup game before his evening practice. As he approached the court, he noticed a commotion. A white woman, dressed in athleisure wear, was standing in the middle of the court, her arms crossed and her face red with anger. "You can't just take over this court," she yelled, pointing at a group of black teens, including Jamal. "This is a public park, and I don't want troublemakers here." Jamal hesitated, unsure of what to do. The other kids on the court looked at each other, unsure how to respond to the woman's sudden outburst. One of them, a boy named Malik, tried to reason with her. "We're just playing basketball, ma'am. We're not causing any trouble." The woman, who introduced herself as Kathy, wasn't having it. "I've seen you people here before, and I know what kind of mess you make. I'm calling the police if you don't leave." Jamal stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. "Ma'am, we're not doing anything wrong. We have every right to be here." Kathy's eyes narrowed as she looked at Jamal. "Who do you think you are, talking to me like that? You're just a kid. You don't own this court. You jobless kids from ill-mannered homes think you can disrupt the peace of this community?" Kathy spilled. The tension was thick in the air, and a small crowd began to gather. Diane, who had been walking home from work, happened to see the commotion and rushed over. "Jamal, what's going on?" she asked, her protective instincts kicking in. Before Jamal could explain, Kathy turned to Diane. "Is this your son? Maybe you should teach him some manners." Diane's eyes blazed with anger. "My son doesn't need to be taught manners. He's respectful and hardworking. You, on the other hand, are out of line." Kathy was about to respond when a familiar voice interrupted. It was Coach Richards, who had been jogging nearby and noticed the gathering crowd. "What's going on here?" he asked, his authoritative tone silencing the chaos. Kathy turned to him, explaining her version of the story. "These kids are causing trouble and trying to take over the court." Coach Richards looked at her incredulously. "Troublemakers? These kids are just playing basketball. And that young man right there," he pointed at Jamal, "is one of the most talented players I've ever coached. He's already signed with the NBA's junior development program." The crowd murmured in surprise, and Kathy's face turned pale. "What?" she stammered. Coach Richards continued, his voice firm. "Jamal is a prodigy. Scouts from the Golden State Warriors and the Los Angeles Lakers are already watching him. He's going to be one of the greats. And you're trying to stop him from playing on a public court?" Kathy's face turned beet red, and she stammered an apology, but Diane wasn't having it. "Your apology doesn't erase the disrespect and judgment you showed today. People like you need to stop thinking you can control who belongs where." Jamal, though shaken, spoke up. "This court is for everyone. Just because I'm black doesn't mean I don't belong here." The crowd cheered, and Kathy quickly left the scene, her head down in shame. Diane hugged her son tightly, proud of his composure and strength. A few weeks later, Jamal received an invitation to participate in a high-profile charity game featuring NBA stars like LeBron James and Steph Curry. The game was being held in his hometown, and the mayor invited Jamal to represent the city's youth. At the event, Jamal played with the same passion and determination that had always defined him. He even got to share the court with LeBron, who praised him for his skill and composure. "You've got a bright future, kid," LeBron told him. "Keep working hard, and you'll go far." Kathy, who had been invited to the game by the city council as part of a community outreach program, watched from the stands. Seeing Jamal on the court, receiving accolades from NBA legends, she realized the weight of her actions. Though she tried to approach Diane and Jamal after the game, Diane simply gave her a knowing look and walked away. Jamal's story became a local legend, inspiring kids in the community to pursue their dreams despite obstacles. He continued to rise through the ranks, eventually earning a spot in the NBA. But he never forgot his roots, often returning to the same park where he once faced judgment to mentor young players. Through it all, Jamal remained humble, a testament to the strength and resilience his mother had instilled in him. His journey wasn't just about basketball, it was about breaking barriers and proving that everyone deserves a place on the court. A few years later, Jamal stood at the very park where everything had unfolded that fateful day. The basketball court had been completely renovated, thanks to Jamal's donations. It now bore his name, Jamal Harris Community Court. Kids of all ages were running around, dribbling basketballs, laughing, and enjoying the space that had once been the center of so much tension. Jamal watched them with a soft smile, his heart full. He was now an established NBA player, having signed with the Golden State Warriors. His mother, Diane, stood beside him, pride evident in her eyes. "You've turned something that could have brought you down into something beautiful, Jamal," she said. Jamal nodded. "It's not just about me, Mom. It's about making sure no one else has to feel the way I did that day." As they spoke, a familiar figure approached, hesitating a few feet away. It was Kathy. She looked older, but there was a humility in her posture that hadn't been there before. Diane noticed her first, her protective instincts flaring, but Jamal gently placed a hand on her shoulder. Kathy cleared her throat, clutching a small bouquet of flowers. "I heard you were hosting this event," she said quietly. "I wanted to come and apologize again. Properly this time." Jamal looked at her, his expression unreadable. "Kathy," he said after a moment. "It's been years." "I know," she said quickly, her voice trembling. "But what I did that day has haunted me. I judged you unfairly, and I've spent a lot of time reflecting on that. I've tried to be better, to see people for who they are, not what I assume about them." Diane crossed her arms, still skeptical, but Jamal gave a small nod. "Actions speak louder than words," he said. "What have you done since then?" Kathy glanced toward the kids playing on the court. "After that day, I started volunteering at the community center. I've been mentoring kids who might not always get the chances they deserve. I tell them about you sometimes, about what I learned." Jamal tilted his head, steadying her. Her remorse seemed genuine, but he knew that forgiveness wasn't about letting someone off the hook, it was about freeing yourself from the burden of resentment. "I appreciate you coming here," he said finally. "But this isn't about me. It's about those kids out there. Keep showing up for them, and maybe you'll find what you're looking for." Kathy nodded, tears brimming in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered before stepping back into the crowd. As the day went on, Jamal took part in a friendly game with the kids, passing on tips and cheering them on. He couldn't help but notice one boy who reminded him of himself, quiet but fiercely determined. The boy's name was Tyler, and Jamal took him under his wing, offering to mentor him personally. That evening, as the sun set and the court emptied out, Diane and Jamal sat on a bench, watching the sky turn shades of orange and pink. "You've grown into an incredible man," Diane said, her voice filled with emotion. "I always knew you would, but seeing it happen, it's something else." Jamal smiled at her. "You taught me everything I know, Mom. Without you, none of this would have been possible." "Don't sell yourself short," Diane said, squeezing his hand. "You've faced challenges I wouldn't have been able to. And you've turned every one of them into an opportunity to help others." As they left the park, Jamal felt a sense of peace. The scars of that day with Kathy were still there, but they had healed into something stronger. He had taken the pain and turned it into a platform for change, using his success to uplift his community and inspire others to dream big, no matter the odds. The next morning, as Jamal prepared for another game with the Warriors, he received a letter in the mail. It was from Kathy. Inside was a note and a small donation check for his foundation, along with a simple message: "Thank you for teaching me how to see the world differently. You've made me want to be better." Jamal folded the note carefully, placing it in a drawer with other keepsakes from his journey. He didn't need recognition or apologies. His purpose had always been bigger than that. But knowing he had changed even one heart was enough to remind him why he played, why he gave back, and why he would never stop fighting for what was right. That evening, as he stepped onto the court for a nationally televised game, the camera caught his face, focused, determined, and full of the same passion he had always carried. The announcer's voice boomed through the stadium. "Ladies and gentlemen, Jamal Harris, a player not just known for his talent, but for his heart." The crowd erupted in applause, and Jamal glanced toward the stands, where Diane sat, cheering louder than anyone. His journey had been far from easy, but it had been worth every challenge. And as he dribbled the ball down the court, he knew he was exactly where he was meant to be. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to Home of Stories TV. And do not forget to turn on the notification bell for more inspiring stories. Drop your comments below, let us know your thoughts.